Welcome to NVC Life. I'm Rachelle Lamb, veteran NVC trainer and relationship coach, helping listeners navigate interpersonal conflict and ground more deeply into relational living. Greetings, fellow humans. On today's episode, not everything resolves. Is it always possible for conflict to be effectively resolved? One of the things that drew me to nonviolent communication was the idea that conflict, when skillfully addressed, is always resolvable. I don't remember when I stopped believing that all conflict can be resolved, but I no longer believe it. And I continue to believe that no matter how much NVC is applied to the process, some conflicts are unlikely to ever resolve. The idea that it's possible for two people engaged in a conflict to get both their needs met is only true if, 1, those two people have the same understanding for what constitutes a need, and 2, both share the same understanding for what constitutes needs being met, emphasis on being met. That's it. Easy, right? Nope, not at all easy. For instance, if you and I are married and we don't share the same ideas around raising our children, we're both going to be frustrated at times. Yes, but NVC argues that if we can both connect at the level of needs, even with only one of us applying the process, we'll eventually be able to resolve the issue. Let's say we both agree that we want our children to be healthy and to eventually be able to make wise choices for themselves as they mature into adulthood. Those are needs that I would say that all parents share for their children. Let's also throw in that we've both been raised differently. One of us is more lenient in our ways, while the other is more authoritative and strongly believes that punishment and rewards is the way to raise a disciplined child. This is not an uncommon scenario, by the way. Let's say for our purposes that the more lenient parent is a fan of NVC and eager to apply the process in resolving some of their parenting differences. Imagine the following conversation after the more authoritative parent has told their 6-year-old to sit on the stairs for 10 minutes after throwing a toy across the room because the parent has said no to the child having candy. Later that evening, when the couple go to bed, Sarah, the more lenient parent, initiates a conversation with Thomas. Thomas, I'd like to talk to you about something that's difficult for me to bring up. He agrees. He's waiting attentively. When you tell Tyler to sit on the stairs after he expresses his behavior in a way you don't like, as happened before dinner tonight, I feel concerned because even though, like you, I want our child to learn how to manage his feelings properly, I'm not convinced that he's learning to do that by being punished. I'm wondering if you're following what I'm saying. Thomas responds, look, you've heard me say this before. Tyler has to learn that he can't go around throwing things every time he doesn't get his way. Kids learn through consequences. It worked for me as a kid, and I see no reason to change what works. Can I see if I got this right? You want Tyler to understand limits and understand that he needs to learn to channel his frustrations in more acceptable ways. And also, that since punishment worked for you as a child, you trust that he'll benefit equally from punishment? Am I understanding you? Yes, you got it. Kids learn best through consequences when they struggle to accept the realities of life. And she responds, yes. And you want Tyler to learn the realities of life so he can live well, right? Yes, absolutely. I'm wondering if there's more you'd like me to hear on the subject. Am I missing anything? I can't think of anything. It's not complicated, okay? I'm wondering if you feel that I've fully heard you. Yep, you've captured it well. I'm wondering if you'd be willing to hear what goes on for me, especially since I have a different take on it. No, not especially. You've told me plenty of times that you think I'm too hard on Tyler and you don't want me to exercise my parental right to impose consequences. It's actually hugely maddening to me that you're trying once again in this moment to sweet talk me into seeing things your way. I'm done with this conversation. Oh boy, Sarah's feeling discouraged and frustrated in this moment. She tries again. You want me to know that you're not open to any further discussion. You have a need for respect for your beliefs and your thoughts. You perceive my attempts to talk about it as a manipulation. Stop it! You're doing it again! Even now you're having a hard time trusting my sincerity. Come on, you won't let go of this until you manage to convince me that seeing things differently is the right way to see things. Be honest. You might have a point there. Initially, I had hoped that we could both try to understand each other's perspectives, and right now, I suppose it would be accurate to say that I'm also secretly hoping you would have some appreciation for approaching our challenges with Tyler by talking things through with him instead of resorting to punishment. I would like to be heard by you in the same way that I was reflecting back to you what I was hearing, even while disagreeing with you. Ugh, this NVC shit. You repeat after me, I repeat after you, back and forth, back and forth. It's so annoying. I just don't want to do it. You're not going to manage to convince me. It sounds to me like you're growing more frustrated and don't have much hope that I can really hear you and the reasons why you feel strongly about disciplining Tyler by using punishment. We're done. Drop it. Sarah has a choice to make in this moment. What is she going to say or do? What would you say or do? If she decides to apply even more pressure, she might say something like, I feel so frustrated in this moment. I also have thoughts about parenting, and I have a need, just like you do, to be heard about what I think and believe. I'm going to respect your request to not discuss this further tonight, but I want you to know that I don't consider our conversation to be over or the matter to be resolved. Depending on how emotionally regulated she is, she might move towards him and kiss him goodnight or simply turn over and go to sleep. Sarah can continue to keep her attention on feelings and needs, feeling into her own frustration and despair as she steps back from her husband's feelings of anger and defensiveness. She understands that they both care for their son Tyler, and she also understands that they both have a need to be heard and to have their views respected. Even so, they are not on the same page. Understanding and connecting with another person's needs does not invariably lead to everyone's needs being met or to viable solutions being found. As Sarah reflects on the conversation with her husband, she may have genuine compassion for her husband. She may be remembering conversations with him where early on in their relationship he revealed his mixed feelings towards his parents, in particular towards his father. Thomas may have been deeply appreciative of the way Sarah listened to him as he shared his painful early childhood experiences. He may have felt truly seen and held by her, which deepened his love for her. And still, this thick wall of defense shows up as they discuss how they treat Tyler differently. Thomas has no room to listen to Sarah's very real concerns about how they raise their child. She may be remembering her own childhood experiences of being punished and how she only felt humiliated and vindictive as a result. But unlike Thomas, she has spent years trying to overcome feelings of low self-esteem generated during childhood, which has led her to counseling, self-help books and workshops, and more recently, nonviolent communication, a process which has increased her sense of hope that things can be different. And right now, Sarah is overwhelmed with sadness. She eventually drifts off to sleep as she circles around the needs that both she and her husband share. I think it's important to recognize that the warm and fuzzy feelings that can and sometimes do result when we connect with another person, whether attained through NVC practice or some other means, is not the end product, nor do I believe it should be. In fact, I would describe such encounters as time spent in symbiotic accord and not necessarily a sign of having resolved differences. Life is full of hardship, and feelings of symbiotic accord are to be savored for what they are, generous weather systems passing through the ecosystem of human relating. In this episode, I have offered a simple yet fairly common example of a conflict not coming to resolution. One person has placed a lot of faith in the NVC process to help her resolve the conflict. Her partner, meanwhile, doesn't share her enthusiasm. Can NVC help Sarah? As long as 1. she isn't attached to getting what she wants out of the discussion. And 2, as long as she keeps her awareness on her husband's humanity, despite him not budging from his position regarding the use of punishment. 3, as long as she doesn't lose sight of her own needs to be heard. She might ask a close friend to hear her instead of her husband. And 4, as long as she is in touch with her emerging need to mourn, that her need to be heard by someone she shares her life so intimately with isn't going to be met in this instance. Then we could say that she's practicing NVC and that NVC is helping her to remain human under trying circumstances. But the notion that Sarah can facilitate a connection where it's possible for everyone's needs to be equally valued is a complete fantasy at this point. Thomas is not demonstrating willingness in this moment to hear Sarah in her need. Possibility and reality are 2 different things, and reality always trumps possibility. In closing, I think that as individuals, we can increase our capacity for strength and resilience to the degree that we are willing to accept the limitations that we each bring to the table. Relationships are rarely 50-50. They are work, my friends. They are labor. How will things go for Sarah, Thomas, and their son Tyler? We don't know. We can't know. All we can know is that we all, each and every one of us, at different times in our lives, find ourselves standing at a juncture where we either open to become more self-aware and compassionate, which means confronting hard things very often, or we choose to stay closed. Yes, we can know this, and we can also not know it. I recommend knowing it. Thank you for tuning into NVC Life. For future episodes, be sure to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or YouTube. For free resources or to book a private session with me, head over to RachelleLamb.com. Until the next time, stay sane, grateful, and generous.